Have you ever heard of a town that vanished without a trace? Not from a disaster, not from an evacuation. It just disappeared from every map, every record, every memory. In 1974, that's exactly what happened. People simply stopped acknowledging it ever existed. This is the story of a place the world forgot, and the traveler who made the mistake of remembering. His name was Daniel Reeves, a documentarian obsessed with uncovering lost places. He drove for hours across an endless empty plain, following a set of phantom coordinates he'd found in a corrupted data archive. This place shouldn't be here. Satellite images showed nothing but flat, barren earth. But the ground-penetrating radar data told a different story. Something was being hidden. As blue dusk settled over the horizon, his headlights caught the edge of a rust-covered sign. The name was faded but legible. Holbrook. What was strange was the sign itself. It was covered in decades of dust, except for the letters, which were clean, as if someone had recently wiped them. Daniel stepped out of his car. The silence was absolute. No wind, no insects, not even the distant hum of civilization. The air was heavy, warm, and unnaturally still. His own footsteps echoed with a startling loudness as he walked the cracked pavement. He chose a house at random and pushed open the door. Inside, the living room was frozen in time. A dinner table was set for 3, the chairs slightly pushed back as if the family had just stood up. The television screen glowed with faint static, but the most unsettling part? Everything was spotless. No dust, no decay, no cobwebs. It looked as if the occupants had left only minutes ago, not 50 years. Daniel whispered to his camera, his voice trembling slightly. How can a town be abandoned, yet untouched? On the table, he found a photograph. A smiling family posing in front of this very house. But as he looked closer, his blood ran cold. Behind them, standing in the middle of the street, was a tall, human-shaped shadow. He zoomed in with his camera. The shadow had no features, just a blurred, humanoid form with edges that seemed to dissolve into television static. Then he noticed something even more impossible. The shadow wasn't just behind the family. It was slightly overlapped by them, as if it existed both before and after the photo was taken. Like it was a glitch in time itself, he moved deeper into Holbrook. Every house told the same impossible story. Tables set for meals that were never finished. Radios still plugged in, silent. Clocks on the walls, all frozen at different hours. It was a town of interrupted moments. He entered a barber shop, the scent of old leather still hanging in the air. A pair of scissors lay on the floor next to a chair, as if dropped mid-snip. A newspaper lay on the floor, its headline stark. Local council votes to. The rest of the article was blank. Not faded or smudged. It was simply gone, as if the words were never written in the first place. That's when he heard it. A faint whisper, like breath on the back of his neck. He spun around. Nothing but the barber chair. It was slowly, silently turning to face him. Night didn't fall in Holbrook. It crashed down unnaturally fast. One moment it was dusk, the next pitch black. Daniel felt a surge of panic and turned to head back to his car, but the streets were wrong. The simple grid he'd walked was now a labyrinth. Corners that should have been there had become straight roads. Streets he'd just walked now looped back on themselves, leading him right back to where he started. He frantically checked his GPS. The screen glitched, displaying impossible readings. Distance to destination, 0 meters. Direction, unknown. He fumbled for his recorder, his voice strained. This isn't abandonment. It's erasure. The town is rearranging itself. And then he saw it. At the far end of the street, a shadow crossed under a lone, flickering streetlight. It was tall, distorted, its limbs unnaturally long. Daniel scrambled behind a rusted mailbox, his heart hammering against his ribs. The figure didn't walk. It glided, its movements silent, fluid, and fundamentally wrong. It stopped, and slowly it tilted its head, as if it could sense his fear in the suffocating silence. Desperate, Daniel ducked into a nearby diner. The interior was dimly lit by a single sputtering ceiling lamp. He needed to hide, to think. Behind the counter, his shaking hands found a journal, its pages filled with frantic, spidery handwriting. He flipped to the last entry. People are disappearing. Not dying disappearing, like they never existed. Even memories are fading. This town isn't haunted. It's hungry. As he read those words, a low hum started. The silverware on the tables began to vibrate. The floor trembled beneath his feet. The lamp overhead flickered faster, faster, until it went out completely, plunging him into absolute darkness. He was alone with the sound of his own ragged breathing. He raised his camera, its small LED light his only defense. The beam cut through the black and illuminated a face, inches from his lens. It wasn't human. It was a smooth, featureless mask, a blurred silhouette that had somehow been given three-dimensional shape. The moment the light touched it, the face didn't recoil, it evaporated, dissolving into a cloud of sizzling static that vanished into the air. Daniel ran. He burst out of the diner and into a nightmare. The town was actively folding in on itself now. Buildings shifted and groaned, their foundations scraping against the earth as they closed in. Windows appeared on solid brick walls. The very geometry of the world was breaking down. A siren began to wail, but the sound was wrong, a low, distorted loop, like an emergency alert being played backward. He stumbled, falling through the doors of the town hall. Inside, a massive, hand-drawn map of Holbrook covered one wall. Every street and district was neatly labeled, except for the very center of the town. It was marked only with a single brutal X, and scribbled beneath it, a desperate warning. Do not remember. The air in the room grew instantly cold. A long, sharp shadow stretched from behind him, growing across the floor. It wasn't approaching him. It was forming right there. Daniel turned, slowly. The entity stood behind him, fully materialized now. It was a living silhouette, its edges fizzing with unstable static. It raised a long, thin arm. As it did, the walls of the town hall began to dissolve, not into dust, but into images. He saw dozens of overlapping copies of the same street, layered on top of each other like transparent film. Layers of the town, all existing at once. And in every layer, there were no people. Only more of those silent, watching shadows. The entity's fingers, made of nothing but darkness and noise, touched his forehead. Daniel's world fractured. His memories crackled and broke apart like corrupted data files. He saw flashes of the town's final moments. Residents trying to run, only to be pulled back by an invisible force, their screams silent. Families looking at each other, their faces filled with confusion as they forgot their own names. New buildings appearing overnight, rewriting the town's history. And then he saw the final act, the town erasing itself, starting with the people who had dared to remember it. Daniel woke up lying on the asphalt. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. The town of Holbrook was silent again, perfectly still, as if nothing had ever happened. He tried to stand, a wave of dizziness washing over him. He felt incomplete, as if pieces of his own mind were missing. He scrambled back to where he'd left his car. It was there, untouched. He didn't hesitate. He jumped in and drove, flooring the accelerator without a single look back. Miles away, when the endless plain stretched out before him once more, he finally pulled over, gasping for breath. That's when he realized something was wrong. His camera, his precious camera, was gone from the seat beside him.